They thought she was just another black girl they could humiliate for fun. New school. No friends. No protection. So when Braden Collins punched Zariah Hunter in the middle of the hallway, the entire school laughed, until he woke up flat on the floor wondering how she disarmed him like a trained soldier. But Crestfall High isn't just full of racist bullies, it's hiding corruption, cover-ups, and a secret, powerful enough to get people killed. And the deeper Zariah digs into her mother's past, the more dangerous this school becomes. Stay until the end, because the final twist changes everything. And before we begin, comment below, where are you watching this video from? Crestfall High went quiet the second Zariah Hunter stepped into the hallway. Not completely silent. Lockers still slammed shut. Shoes still scraped against polished floors. Someone at the far end of the corridor laughed too loudly at a joke nobody else understood. But beneath the noise, there was a shift, the kind that happened when an entire room noticed someone who didn't belong. Zariah felt every pair of eyes on her as she walked beside the guidance counselor. Her dark hoodie contrasted sharply against the bright blue and white colors covering the walls of Crestfall High. Trophies glittered behind glass displays. Posters for football championships lined the corridor like reminders of who really owned the school. The counselor forced an awkward smile. Your schedule should already be uploaded to the student system. If you need anything, I won't. Zariah replied calmly. The woman nodded too quickly before walking away. That was the first thing people noticed about her. Not the color of her skin. Not the scar near her eyebrow. Not even the fact that she was the only black student anyone had seen in the advanced academic wing all year. It was the way she looked at people. Like she had already survived worse. Whispers followed her immediately. Who is she? She transferred mid-semester. I heard she got expelled from another school. No. Another voice whispered. Sierra said she was in juvie. That caught Zariah's attention for half a second. Near the trophy cases stood Sierra Vale. Perfectly dressed as always. Surrounded by girls who laughed half a second after she did. Sierra didn't even bother lowering her voice. My cousin's friend saw her record. Sierra said while staring directly at Zariah. Violence issues. Apparently she attacked somebody. A few students turned to look harder at Zariah after that. Exactly what Sierra wanted. Zariah kept walking. No reaction. No anger. Nothing. And somehow, that irritated them more. By lunchtime, the rumors had already spread across the entire school. The new girl was dangerous. The new girl was crazy. The new girl had been locked up. The cafeteria buzzed with excitement as Zariah sat alone near the back wall, quietly eating without looking at anyone. Her movements were controlled, precise. Even the way she opened a juice bottle looked deliberate. At another table, Tyler Reed angled his phone camera toward her. Live stream's up, he muttered with a grin. Beside him, Braden Collins leaned back in his chair like a king surveying his territory. Captain of the football team. Son of the chairman of the parent board. Intouchable. He watched Zariah carefully. She hasn't cracked once. Tyler said. That's because nobody's pushed hard enough yet. Braden replied. She är röstmärkad. Maybe she's scared? Braden stood. The cafeteria instantly paid attention. Students subtly reached for phones beneath tables. Everyone loved a public execution, especially at Crestfall. Braden walked straight toward Zariah's table and stopped beside her chair. You deaf or something? He asked. Zariah kept eating. A few students laughed nervously. Braden's smile faded. I asked you a question. Still nothing. The humiliation hit him immediately. Not because she insulted him, because she didn't acknowledge him at all. Braden suddenly slammed both hands onto the table. The sound echoed through the cafeteria. Zariah slowly looked up. For the first time, their eyes met properly, and Braden felt something he didn't expect. Not fear, not weakness. Calculation. You think you're tough? He asked quietly. No, Zariah answered. Her voice was calm enough to make the room uncomfortable. I just don't care about you. The cafeteria exploded with shocked reactions. Tyler nearly dropped his phone laughing. Yo. She's dead. Braden's face darkened instantly. Nobody talked to him like that. Nobody. He grabbed Zariah's tray and dumped it onto the floor beside her chair. Food splattered across the tiles. Still, she didn't move. That made him even angrier. You got attitude for somebody who just got here. Zariah stood slowly. Not aggressively. Not emotionally. Just enough to face him directly. I'm trying to eat, she said. Move. For 1 second, the entire cafeteria held its breath. Then Braden shoved her shoulder hard. The impact would have knocked most students sideways. Zariah barely moved. That was the moment Braden realized something was wrong. The look in her eyes changed slightly, like a switch flipping somewhere deep inside her head. Tyler kept live streaming as students crowded closer. Sensing violence coming. Hit her. Someone whispered. Braden smirked. Embarrassed now that people expected him to back down. So he swung fast. A straight punch aimed directly into Zariah's stomach. Gasps filled the room. But the punch never landed. Zariah moved instantly. Not like a scared teenager. Like muscle memory. Her hand snapped downward, trapping Braden's wrist mid-swing. In the same motion, she pivoted sideways, twisted his arm violently, and used his own momentum against him. Braden's body slammed across a cafeteria table. Trays crashed onto the floor. Students screamed. Before anyone understood what happened, Braden was face down against the ground with his arm locked behind his back, unable to move. Tyler's live stream shook violently as he backed away in shock. What the hell? Braden groaned in pain. Zariah released him immediately and stepped back. No panic. No heavy breathing. No satisfaction. Just silence. The cafeteria stared at her like she was something dangerous. Near the entrance, Elijah Cross had witnessed the entire thing, and unlike the others, he wasn't shocked by the violence. He was shocked by the technique, because he recognized it. Marine Corps restraint training. His expression darkened immediately. Who the hell trained a 17-year-old girl to move like that? Braden slowly pushed himself off the floor while students whispered all around him. His face burned with humiliation more than pain. Tyler stopped the live stream seconds too late. But somebody had already saved the video, and by the end of the school day, the footage was spreading through Crestfall, high faster than wildfire. Only one problem remained. The beginning of the video had disappeared. The part where Braden attacked first was gone. And suddenly, online, Zariah Hunter no longer looked like the victim. She looked like the monster. By sunrise, everyone at Crestfall High had already seen the video. Not the real one. The edited one. The version spreading across student group chats and anonymous school pages showed only the final seconds inside the cafeteria. Braden Collins slammed against a table while Zariah Hunter twisted his arm behind his back with terrifying precision. The clip ended before anyone could see him throw the first punch. Before the shove. Before the threats. Online. Context disappeared faster than truth ever could. Now the captions told a different story. New girl attacks football captain. Psychotic transfer student snaps. She belongs in prison. Sierra Vale made sure the rumors evolved by the minute. By first period, she had already reposted the video with fake concern. This girl is seriously dangerous. Crestfall students should feel safe. Hundreds of comments flooded underneath within minutes. Some supported Braden. Some called Zariah violent. Others simply enjoyed the chaos. That was the part Zariah understood immediately about Crestfall High. People here didn't need facts. They needed entertainment. The hallway outside the principal's office buzzed with whispers as students slowed down just to stare at her sitting alone on the bench. Nobody approached directly. After yesterday's fight, fear had replaced curiosity. Zariah leaned back against the wall silently. Arms folded. Expression unreadable. The office secretary avoided eye contact every time she walked past. Inside the office, angry voices echoed through the door. Braden's father had apparently called before school even started. Of course he had. Several minutes later, Principal Dean finally opened the door. He was a tall man in his late 50s with silver hair and the permanently exhausted expression of someone more concerned with reputation than justice. "Miss Hunter," he said coldly. Inside, Zariah entered without speaking. Braden sat near the desk wearing a fake arm sling that looked almost insulting. Tyler sat beside him, pretending not to smirk, while Sierra leaned casually against the filing cabinet, scrolling through her phone. Braden glanced up dramatically as Zariah entered. There she is. Principal Dean folded his hands together. "I reviewed the footage this morning." "No?" Zariah replied calmly. "You reviewed part of it." The room stiffened instantly. Dean's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me. The beginning was cut out." Tyler scoffed loudly. "Seriously, that's your excuse? She attacked me for no reason." Braden added, "Playing wounded victim perfectly. I was trying to calm her down." Even Sierra almost laughed at that performance. Principal Dean slid a tablet across the desk toward Zariah. The edited video replayed once more. Every angle made her look colder, more dangerous. "You used excessive force against another student on school property." Dean said, "Do you understand how serious that is?" He swung first. "Do you have proof?" Silence. Because somebody had already made sure the proof disappeared. Dean leaned back in his chair. Crestfall High has zero tolerance for violence. The hypocrisy almost made Zariah smile. Braden had shoved freshmen into lockers for years. Tyler once broke another student's nose during practice. Sierra destroyed people socially for fun. Yet, somehow, she was the problem after defending herself once. "I can suspend you immediately," Dean continued. "Possibly expel you pending district review." Tyler grinned. Sierra watched carefully, waiting for Zariah to finally break emotionally. But she didn't. That irritated all of them more than screaming ever would have. "You already decided what I am before I walked in here," Zariah said quietly. Dean's jaw tightened. "Watch your tone." "No," she replied. "You watch yours." The room froze. Even Braden looked surprised. She dared say that directly to the principal. For a second, something dangerous flashed through Dean's eyes. Not anger. Fear. Like Zariah's calmness unsettled him more than violence itself. Before he could respond, another voice interrupted from the doorway. "She's right." Everyone turned. Elijah Cross stepped into the office, carrying a folder beneath one arm. The history teacher's expression remained unreadable as he glanced between Braden and the replaying video. "With all due respect," Elijah continued, "that footage is incomplete." Dean immediately looked irritated. "This is a disciplinary matter, Mr. Cross, and I witnessed the incident." That changed the atmosphere instantly. Braden sat straighter. Tyler looked nervous for the first time. Elijah walked closer to the tablet screen and paused the frame exactly where Zariah trapped Braden's wrist. His eyes lingered there. That movement again. Too clean. Too fast. Military. She reacted defensively. Elijah said carefully, not aggressively. Dean crossed his arms. Are you suggesting our evidence was manipulated? Elijah held his gaze for several seconds before answering. I'm suggesting we don't have the full story. The tension thickened. Dean clearly wanted the meeting over before questions became dangerous. Finally, he exhaled sharply. Miss Hunter is suspended from extracurricular activities pending further review. One more incident and she's gone. Understood. Zariah stood slowly. I understand perfectly. She walked out before anyone dismissed her. Behind her, Sierra muttered quietly enough for only Braden to hear. Told you she's crazy. But Elijah kept staring at the paused image on the tablet screen. That technique bothered him more every second. Because 17-year-old girls didn't move like trained Marines by accident. Hours later, rain hammered against the windows of the Hunter house while Marcus Hunter replayed the cafeteria footage for the 5th time in silence. The old Marine veteran sat rigid in his chair, jaw clenched hard enough to shake. Zariah stood across from him near the kitchen doorway. You told me not to start fights, she said. Marcus looked up sharply. That wasn't self-defense anymore. He attacked me. And you used combat restraint training in public. His voice thundered through the room. You think people won't notice that Zariah stayed silent? Marcus slammed the laptop shut violently. I trained you to survive. He growled. Not to put targets on our backs. That sentence hit differently. Not our backs. As if danger had always existed long before Crestfall High. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. You do not fight again, no matter what they do to you. You walk away. Understand me. Zariah looked away toward the rain outside. For the first time since arriving at Crestfall, exhaustion finally showed in her eyes. You think they'll let me walk away? Marcus didn't answer. Because deep down, both of them already knew the truth. Meanwhile, back at school long after sunset, Elijah Cross sat alone inside an empty classroom, staring at the security system pulled onto his laptop. The official cafeteria footage had clearly been altered. Timestamps skipped unnaturally. Frames were missing. Someone inside Crestfall High had edited the files deliberately. Elijah traced the access logs carefully until one location appeared repeatedly. School IT department. His expression darkened. He opened the original archived hallway camera from before the fight started. Static flickered briefly across the screen. Students moved through the hallway normally. Then Elijah noticed something strange. Far down the corridor, partially hidden near the trophy cases, stood a man wearing a dark gray jacket and baseball cap pulled low over his face, watching Zariah. Not casually, intentionally. The timestamp showed he had been standing there several minutes before the fight even happened. Elijah leaned closer toward the screen. Who the hell are you? At that exact moment, the footage glitched violently. The screen went black. And by the next morning, every security camera file from the entire hallway system had vanished completely. Crestfall High smelled like fresh-cut grass, sweat, and money. Every Friday afternoon, the football field became the center of the entire school. Students filled the bleachers hours before practice even started. Not because they cared about the game, but because Braden Collins stood at the center of it all like a celebrity king ruling over his own private kingdom. Teachers protected him. Parents worshipped him. Students feared him. And after the cafeteria incident, he needed everyone to remember exactly who controlled Crestfall. Again, Coach yelled across the field. Braden slammed another player into the dirt harder than necessary. Rage boiling beneath every movement. Sweat dripped down his jaw as applause erupted from the bleachers. Tyler jogged beside him laughing. You should have seen her face online this morning. Tyler said, People are destroying her. Braden ripped off his helmet. Not enough. Tyler smirked. You're really this mad because some girl embarrassed you. Braden grabbed him by the shoulder pads suddenly. Eyes cold. She didn't embarrass me. Tyler's grin faded. She made me look weak. That was worse. Much worse. Near the top row of the bleachers, Sierra Vale sat cross-legged scrolling through her phone while reposting edited clips of Zariah to anonymous student accounts. Every upload added more poison to the fire. One post showed Zariah restraining Braden with the caption "psychopath" or "future school shooter." Another included a zoomed-in screenshot of her expressionless face. Imagine sitting next to this freak in class. Thousands of views spread through the student network within hours. And the comments became uglier every minute. Send her back to the hood. She belongs in prison. Watch your back around her. Sierra smiled while reading them. Not because she believed any of it. Because manipulation was entertainment to her. Inside the main academic hallway, Zariah stopped walking the moment she reached her locker. Red spray paint dripped down the metal door. Go back where you came from. Underneath, someone had painted another word in huge black letters. Animal. The hallway went strangely quiet around her. Students pretended not to stare while secretly waiting for her reaction. Zariah's face remained unreadable, but her hand tightened slowly around the strap of her backpack. Not fear. Control. Across the hallway, Noah Bennett stood frozen beside a classroom doorway. Guilt twisting inside his stomach. He had reposted the cafeteria video the first night without thinking. Everybody had. At the time, it felt harmless. Now things were spiraling into something darker. He watched Zariah quietly grab paper towels from a janitor cart nearby and begin wiping the paint away herself while nobody helped. Not one person. Noah looked down in shame. For the first time, he realized Crestfall didn't just enjoy cruelty. It fed on silence. That afternoon, Tyler Reed followed Zariah after school from a distance. Pretending to text while secretly recording videos for Braden, Zariah walked alone through the parking lot beneath gray skies. Hoodie pulled up against the cold wind. Tyler kept several car lengths behind her, amused by how paranoid she seemed. But after several minutes, something strange happened. Zariah stopped walking. Tyler froze instantly, without turning around. She spoke calmly. You've been behind me for 6 blocks. Tyler's stomach dropped. Slowly. Zariah glanced back over her shoulder. Her eyes locked directly onto his phone camera. You're not very good at this. Tyler forced a laugh. Relax. Psycho. It's a public sidewalk. Zariah stared at him another second before continuing toward the bus stop. That should have ended it. Instead, Tyler felt unsettled, because normal people didn't notice surveillance that quickly. By the time the late bus arrived, rain had started falling lightly across Crestfall. Most students filled the back seats loudly, while music blasted from somebody's speaker. Zariah sat alone near the middle of the bus beside the window, headphones resting around her neck, but not turned on. She noticed everything. The whispers, the phones pointed toward her, the laughter that stopped whenever she looked up. Near the back, Braden sat with Tyler and several football players watching her carefully. She thinks she's tough, one of them muttered. Braden leaned back against the seat. Everybody breaks eventually. Then someone threw the first object. A crushed soda can bounced off the side of Zariah's head. The bus exploded with laughter. The driver didn't even look back. Zariah slowly lowered the can into her lap. Another object hit her shoulder. Then another. Tyler recorded everything. Yo! He laughed. Say something, someone shouted a racial slur from the back row. That was the moment the atmosphere shifted. Zariah stood up slowly. Too slowly. The laughter faded almost immediately. Students suddenly realized something dangerous was building beneath her silence. Braden smirked, pretending confidence, but even he straightened slightly in his seat. Zariah walked down the aisle toward the back of the bus with controlled steps, her jaw tightened hard enough to flex visibly beneath the dim lights. Every instinct inside her screamed to react. Years of training burned through her muscles like fire, begging for release. One more shove. One more insult. One more threat. That was all it would take. Tyler kept filming while backing deeper into the corner seat. Look at her eyes. Bro. She's actually crazy. Zariah stopped directly beside him. The entire bus went dead silent. Then Noah suddenly stood up from 2 rows ahead. Enough. Everybody looked at him in shock. Noah's voice shook. But he forced himself to continue. You guys started this. All of it. Braden narrowed his eyes immediately. Sit down. Noah. She didn't attack you. Noah continued. You attacked her first. Tyler lowered his phone slowly. The tension became suffocating. Zariah looked at Noah for the first time differently, not with trust. But surprise. Nobody at Crestfall ever spoke against Braden publicly. Nobody. Braden rose from his seat dangerously. Careful. But Noah didn't sit back down. And for the first time since arriving at Crestfall, the balance inside the bus shifted slightly. Not enough to stop the bullying, but enough to crack the illusion that Braden controlled everyone. Later that night, Noah sat alone inside his bedroom staring at the school's online server logs pulled onto his laptop screen. His fingers trembled across the keyboard as he traced the upload history of the edited cafeteria video. One username kept appearing repeatedly. De Valle Itadman. Noah's eyes widened. Daniel Valle. Sierra's older brother. The school's IT assistant. No way, Noah whispered. The video had been edited from inside the school itself. Before he could process the discovery fully, another notification appeared on Tyler's private social account. New upload. Tyler had secretly posted a zoomed-in picture taken of Zariah while she changed shirts briefly after gym practice. Most students focused on her scarred shoulder, but Tyler's caption highlighted something else. A faded Marine Corps tattoo hidden near her collarbone. The comments exploded instantly. Military brat gang symbol Army girl Braden stared at the image for a long time in silence. Then his expression slowly darkened. Because suddenly, nothing about Zariah Hunter made sense anymore. Not the fighting. Not the calmness. Not the way she moved. He leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the screen, and for the first time since meeting her, Braden Collins stopped seeing Zariah as just another victim. Who the hell is this girl? Rain fell softly across the military cemetery, turning the rows of white gravestones into blurred shadows beneath the gray morning sky. Zariah Hunter stood alone in front of her mother's grave, with both hands buried deep inside her coat pockets. Her expression unreadable beneath the cold wind. Water dripped from the edge of her hood as silence surrounded the hill like a living thing. She came here every year on the same date. Same time. Same flowers. Same questions that never received answers. Sergeant Naomi Hunter. United States Marine Corps. Beloved mother. Honored soldier. Zariah stared at the engraved letters for a long moment before kneeling slowly beside the grave. Her fingers brushed across the wet stone carefully, almost gently, as if touching it too hard might destroy the only thing she still had left of her mother. Marcus stood several feet behind her, holding an umbrella but never stepping closer. That distance between them had existed for years, ever since Naomi died. You shouldn't stay long, Marcus muttered quietly. Storm's getting worse. Zariah ignored him. When I was little, she said softly, eyes fixed on the grave. You used to tell me she died a hero. Marcus remained silent. You said she died protecting her unit overseas. Still nothing. Zariah finally looked back at him. Was any of that true? Marcus's jaw tightened immediately. That's not a conversation we're having today. That means no. The old Marine veteran exhaled sharply, irritation flickering across his face. Your mother served this country honorably. That's what matters. No. Zariah replied quietly. What matters is why nobody will tell me how she actually died. The tension thickened between them instantly. Marcus looked away toward the rows of graves stretching across the hill. Rain tapped steadily against the umbrella above him, while old memories darkened his expression. For years, he had trained Zariah to survive, to fight, to stay alert, but never to ask too many questions. Because questions were dangerous, especially questions about Naomi Hunter. As thunder rolled faintly overhead, fragments of memory drifted through Zariah's mind, flashes from childhood she could never fully piece together. Her mother laughing while teaching her how to wrap her fists correctly. The smell of gun oil inside a military garage. Naomi kneeling beside her one night, whispering softly, "If anything ever happens to me, you keep fighting anyway." At the time, Zariah had thought it sounded heroic. Now it sounded like a warning. Later that afternoon, Crestfall High felt colder than usual. Students still whispered when Zariah passed through the hallways. But now the fear mixed with curiosity. The tattoo photo Tyler leaked had spread everywhere overnight. Some students called her dangerous. Others thought she was lying about military connections for attention. Only Elijah Cross reacted differently. Inside his history classroom after school, Elijah sat alone scrolling through military archive databases on his laptop while old fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Naomi Hunter's name appeared repeatedly in restricted files marked classified or sealed by federal authority. That alone made no sense. Ordinary Marines didn't receive sealed death records. Elijah leaned closer toward the screen. Eyes narrowing. Combat deployment history missing. Cause of death unavailable. Final operation redacted. His stomach tightened. "What were you involved in?" he muttered quietly. The classroom door suddenly opened behind him. Zariah stepped inside, carrying her backpack over one shoulder. Elijah quickly minimized the files. "You needed something," he asked carefully. "I saw you watching me during the fight." Direct. No hesitation. Elijah studied her for a moment before nodding slightly. "You move like military. My grandfather trained me." "That's not backyard self-defense." Silence filled the room. Zariah's eyes drifted briefly toward the laptop screen before returning to him. "You knew my mother." That question hit harder than Elijah expected. "Not personally," he answered after a pause, "but I knew who she was." Zariah stepped closer. "Then tell me what happened to her." Elijah hesitated. That hesitation alone confirmed her worst fear. "You know something." Before he could answer, his office computer suddenly flashed with an access denied warning across the screen. The military archive vanished instantly. Unauthorized access detected. File locked. Elijah frowned immediately. Someone had just remotely shut down the records. Not randomly. Intentionally. Zariah saw his expression change. "What is it?" Elijah closed the laptop slowly. "Your mother's files are sealed at a level that shouldn't exist for someone with her rank." Confusion flickered across Zariah's face. "What does that mean?" "It means," Elijah said carefully, "somebody worked very hard to make sure nobody asks questions about Naomi Hunter." The air inside the classroom suddenly felt heavier. Dangerous. For the first time, Zariah realized this story might be bigger than war, bigger than military service, bigger than Crestfall. That night, the storm intensified violently outside the Hunter house. Thunder rattled the windows while Marcus cleaned an old pistol silently at the kitchen table. Zariah stood across from him, holding a faded photograph of Naomi in Marine uniform. "You lied to me," she said coldly. Marcus didn't look up. "About what everything?" The old man's hands stopped moving. Elijah checked her records. They were sealed. No response. Zariah stepped closer. Why would the military hide the death of a normal soldier? Marcus finally raised his eyes toward her, and for the first time, she saw fear inside them. "Real fear? You need to let this go. My mother is dead." Her voice exploded through the room. "I deserve the truth." Marcus slammed the pistol onto the table hard enough to make her flinch. "No," he growled. "You deserve to stay alive." The room went dead silent. Rain hammered against the windows, as both of them stared at each other, breathing hard. Then Marcus said the words that shattered everything. "Your mother didn't die the way you think she did." Zariah froze completely. "What?" Marcus looked away instantly, like he already regretted speaking. "She found something she wasn't supposed to find." "What does that mean?" she asked questions. Marcus whispered bitterly. "And people like that don't survive very long." The realization hit Zariah like ice water. "You think she was murdered?" Marcus didn't answer. He didn't have to. Hours later, long after midnight, the Hunter house fell silent beneath the storm. Zariah slept lightly upstairs while Marcus remained awake in the living room with the pistol resting beside him. Then the back door creaked open. A shadow moved silently through the dark kitchen. Professional, careful, the intruder wore black gloves and moved directly toward Marcus's old military storage cabinet without hesitation, as if already knowing what they were searching for. Files, documents, records. Marcus woke instantly at the sound of metal scraping. "Hey!" The figure bolted through the hallway just as Marcus grabbed the pistol. Footsteps thundered across the floor upstairs, waking Zariah immediately. She rushed from her room in time to see the masked intruder disappear out the back entrance into the storm. Marcus searched the destroyed cabinet furiously. Folders scattered everywhere. Drawers ripped open. One file missing. Taped inside the empty cabinet door was a single handwritten message. Marcus stared at it in horror. Zariah stepped beside him slowly. "What is that?" Marcus's face drained of color as she read the sentence aloud. "She's not supposed to remember." The message arrived on Zariah's phone at 8:47 p.m. Unknown number. "If you want the truth about your mother, come to the gym alone." No signature. No explanation. Just an address pin leading to Crestfall High. Zariah stared at the screen, while thunder rolled faintly outside her bedroom window. Marcus had already fallen asleep downstairs after hours of guarding the house like a soldier expecting another attack. Since the break-in, tension lived inside every corner of the Hunter home. Doors stayed locked. Curtains remained closed. Marcus barely spoke anymore. But the message changed something inside her immediately. Truth. That single word was enough. 20 minutes later, Zariah crossed the empty school parking lot beneath freezing rain, with her hood pulled low over her face. Crestfall High looked completely different at night. Without students filling the halls, the campus felt dead. Hollow, the gym lights glowed faintly through the darkness, like bait waiting inside a trap. Deep down, Zariah already knew something was wrong, but she walked toward the building anyway. The side entrance creaked open slowly as she stepped inside. Darkness swallowed the hallway except for weak emergency lights flickering against the walls. Her footsteps echoed softly across the polished floor, while distant thunder rattled the windows. Then the gym doors slammed shut behind her. Metal chains rattled. Locked. Zariah turned instantly. Slow clapping echoed through the darkness above the bleachers. Braden Collins stepped forward first. Then Tyler. Then Sierra. Several phones lit up simultaneously around the gym. Live streams. Tyler grinned from the corner of the court, while angling his camera directly toward her face. And here she is. He laughed. Crestfall's favorite psychopath. The comments exploded across his screen instantly. She actually came. Told you she was crazy. Do it? Zariah's eyes scanned the room calmly. 3 exits. Locked. 4 students hidden near the bleachers recording. Braden standing closest. Tyler near the equipment rack. Sierra near midcourt. Trap confirmed. You used my mother to get me here. Zariah said quietly. Braden smirked. Worked. Didn't it? Sierra folded her arms. Honestly. I thought you'd be smarter. Zariah didn't answer. That silence irritated them again. Always the silence. Braden stepped closer beneath the hanging gym lights. You know what your problem is? He asked. You walk around like you're better than everybody here. No. Zariah replied calmly. I walk around like I'm not afraid of you. Tyler laughed nervously behind the camera. Bro. She really talks like a movie villain. Braden's smile disappeared. He shoved her hard. Zariah barely moved. Again. That tiny detail made something darker flicker behind Braden's eyes. Sierra suddenly stepped forward and slapped Zariah across the face. The sound cracked through the empty gym. Hit me back. Sierra snapped instantly. Come on. Show everybody who you really are. Tyler zoomed the live stream closer. Thousands of viewers were already watching from student accounts. Zariah slowly turned her head back toward Sierra. Her cheek reddened, but she still didn't move. Sierra looked unsettled by that more than violence itself. What's wrong? Sierra taunted. Marine Girl forgot how to fight. That nickname spread through the live stream comments immediately. Marine Girl. Tyler grinned wider and grabbed a metal baseball bat from the equipment rack nearby. The metallic scrape echoed through the gym. Maybe she only fights boys. He mocked, while spinning the bat once in his hands. Zariah's breathing slowed. Every instinct inside her screamed danger now. Weapon. Confined space. Multiple attackers. Her body automatically began calculating distances without permission. Marcus's voice echoed inside her memory. You do not fight again. No matter what. Tyler pointed the bat directly at her chest. You think you scare people? No. Zariah answered quietly. Her eyes lifted toward him slowly. I think scared people do stupid things. For a brief second, Tyler hesitated. Then Braden snapped. He rushed forward and swung at her first. Everything exploded at once. Zariah moved instantly. Not emotionally, not angrily. Automatically. She sidestepped Braden's punch and slammed her elbow into his ribs, hard enough to drop him sideways into the bleachers. Before Tyler could react, she trapped the baseball bat mid-swing, twisted his wrist violently, and drove him face first into the gym floor. The live stream camera spun wildly across the court. Students watching online screamed through the audio feed. Sierra backed away in shock. What the hell? Tyler groaned in pain, while Zariah kicked the bat across the floor far out of reach. Another student tried rushing her from behind. She grabbed his momentum, flipped him over her shoulder, and sent him crashing onto the wrestling mats beside the wall. Every movement looked terrifyingly efficient. No wasted motion. No hesitation. Military. Braden staggered back onto his feet, breathing heavily now. Rage. Replacing confidence. Blood trickled from his split lip as humiliation burned across his face. She's filming this, Sierra shouted, panicking. Stop her. But nobody could get close enough. That frightened them most. Zariah wasn't fighting wildly. She was controlling the room. Tyler crawled backward desperately while still clutching his phone. The live stream comments flooded faster than he could read. She's trained. Bro, this is insane. Call the cops. Braden suddenly reached into his jacket and pulled out a knife. The atmosphere inside the gym changed instantly. Ave and Sierra froze. Braden shut up. His voice cracked violently. The humiliation had broken something inside him. Rain pounded against the gym roof as he pointed the blade toward Zariah with shaking hands. "You think you can make me look weak," he snarled. Zariah's posture shifted immediately. Lower. Sharper. Dangerous. "Drop it," she warned quietly. But Braden charged anyway, and that was the mistake. The second he lunged forward, Zariah reacted completely on instinct. Her body moved before thought could stop it. She trapped his knife wrist, pivoted sideways, then executed a brutal marine restraint technique Marcus had forbidden her to ever use outside life-or-death situations. A sharp, twisting impact echoed through the gym. Braden's body slammed violently into the hardwood floor. The knife skidded away across the court. Then silence. Complete silence. Braden didn't move. Tyler stared in horror at the live-stream screen. Sierra's face drained white instantly. "Oh my God." Zariah froze too. Her breathing became uneven for the first time all night as she looked down at Braden unconscious on the floor beneath her feet. That technique could have killed him. And judging by the terrified silence around her, everyone in the gym realized it. Then distant sirens suddenly pierced through the night outside. Police. Multiple vehicles. The flashing red and blue lights reflected through the gym windows as panic exploded across the room. Tyler looked toward the exits in terror. Sierra backed away from Zariah like she was seeing her for the first time. And somewhere beyond the locked gym doors, heavy footsteps were already approaching fast. By morning, Crestfall no longer called Zariah Hunter, the new girl. Now they called her the most dangerous student in school. Every television inside the police station lobby replayed the same edited clip on repeat. The footage showed Braden Collins unconscious on the gym floor, while officers rushed toward Zariah with weapons drawn. The live stream had already exploded across social media overnight. But once local news stations picked it up, the story transformed into something much uglier. Violent female student attacks classmates during after-hours incident. Possible gang-related combat training under investigation. Parents demand immediate expulsion. No mention of the knife. No mention of the trap. No mention of the live stream setup or the racial harassment leading to the fight. That part had disappeared somehow. Just like the cafeteria footage, Zariah sat alone in the interrogation room beneath harsh fluorescent lights, while rainwater still dried across her hoodie sleeves. Her knuckles were bruised. A small cut marked the side of her neck from when Braden lunged with the blade. Nobody asked about it, because nobody wanted the real version of the story. Through the glass window outside the room, officers whispered while staring at her like she was already convicted of something larger than assault. She dropped 3 people by herself. Kid fights like military. You see that hold she used on Collins? One officer lowered his voice. That girl's dangerous. Zariah leaned back silently in her chair, exhaustion darkening her eyes. For the first time since arriving at Crestfall, she felt something worse than anger. Isolation. Not the loneliness of being ignored. The loneliness of realizing an entire system had already decided who she was. The interrogation room door opened sharply. Marcus Hunter entered first, and Zariah immediately knew something was wrong. Her grandfather looked furious. Not loud, furious. Controlled furious. The kind Marines carried before war. Behind him walked 2 detectives, carrying folders and evidence bags. One of them placed printed screenshots from the live stream onto the metal table between them. You trained her, the detective asked Marcus coldly. Marcus's eyes never left Zariah. I taught my granddaughter discipline. You taught a minor military restraint techniques. I taught her survival. The detective scoffed. Against high school students, Marcus stepped forward slowly. You saw the knife. Silence. That silence answered everything. The detective closed the folder. The live stream cuts off before any weapon appears. Of course it did. Marcus clenched his jaw hard enough to flex visibly beneath the room light. Someone was cleaning evidence again. Another detective slid a suspension notice across the table toward Zariah. Crestfall High is placing you under indefinite disciplinary review, pending criminal investigation. Zariah stared at the paper numbly. Indefinite. Not suspension. Removal. They wanted her erased from the school completely. Marcus suddenly slammed both palms onto the table. This is bullshit. The officers stiffened immediately. She defended herself. Marcus growled. And you know it. One detective crossed his arms. 3 students were hospitalized. Because they cornered her, nobody forced your granddaughter to attack them. The atmosphere inside the room became suffocating. Zariah watched her grandfather carefully. The old Marine looked genuinely shaken now. Not because she fought, because somebody powerful was steering the narrative, and Marcus recognized it before she did. Hours later, local news vans crowded outside Crestfall High, while reporters repeated the same story over and over again beneath flashing cameras. Parents are calling Zariah Hunter unstable and potentially violent. Some students claim she threatened classmates prior to the incident. One anonymous source described her as trained to hurt people inside the school building. Sierra Vale watched the coverage on her phone with satisfaction, while pretending to look concerned around teachers. Tyler reposted edited clips non-stop with dramatic music added behind the fight footage. Braden remained absent from school. Officially recovering. Unofficially humiliated, beyond repair. And somehow, despite everything, students still treated him like the victim. Elijah Cross stood alone near the faculty lounge television, watching the news coverage in silence. Something about the entire situation felt too organized, too efficient. Evidence vanished too quickly. Narratives changed overnight. Even the police response inside the gym had arrived suspiciously fast, almost like someone expected violence before it happened. Elijah pulled up department records on his laptop again, tracing the responding officers from last night's incident. Then he saw the name, Chief Daniel Collins. His expression darkened instantly. Braden's uncle. Jesus Christ. Suddenly, every missing video clip made sense. Every vanished camera file. Every rushed accusation. This wasn't random corruption anymore. This was protection. Elijah leaned back slowly, realizing the problem surrounding Zariah extended far beyond a few rich bullies inside a school hallway. She had accidentally collided with an entire network protecting itself. Meanwhile, back at the Hunter house, tension hung thick in the air like smoke. Marcus paced the living room while television reports continued attacking Zariah non-stop from the background. She should have listened to me, he muttered bitterly. Zariah sat near the staircase, staring blankly at the floor. You think I wanted this? Marcus stopped pacing immediately. I think they were waiting for an excuse. That sentence lingered heavily between them. Zariah slowly looked up. What does that mean? Marcus hesitated too long. Again. Always hesitation whenever things connected back to her mother. Before he could answer, Zariah's phone vibrated suddenly on the table beside her. Unknown sender. No number attached. Just a video file. Marcus noticed her expression change instantly. What is it? Zariah opened the clip carefully. Static flickered across the screen before old security footage appeared grainy. Distorted. Recorded years earlier inside what looked like an office building. Then the camera focused, and Zariah stopped breathing. Her mother stood inside the frame. Naomi Hunter. Alive, wearing Marine combat gear while arguing with 2 men near stacks of financial documents spread across a table. The audio crackled badly, but several words became horrifyingly clear. Crestfall accounts, money laundering federal investigation. Then, another voice interrupted sharply. You were never supposed to see those files. The footage ended abruptly. Zariah stared at the black screen in shock, while her heartbeat pounded violently inside her chest. Marcus looked pale, like he recognized the room from the video immediately. What is this? Zariah whispered. Nobody answered. Because suddenly, everything changed. The bullying, the surveillance, the erased evidence, the attacks, her mother. It connected somehow. Zariah slowly lowered the phone into her lap as realization settled over her like ice. This had never been just a school bullying story. And somewhere out there, somebody was still terrified of what Naomi Hunter discovered before she died. 3 days after the gym incident, Crestfall High looked normal again on the surface. Students laughed in the hallways. Football practice resumed. Teachers handed out homework like nothing had happened. But underneath the polished floors and smiling faces, something rotten had started leaking through the cracks. And Noah Bennett was beginning to realize how deep it actually went. The computer lab was nearly empty after school when Noah slipped into the back corner seat with his hoodie pulled low and his laptop hidden beneath a stack of textbooks. His hands trembled slightly as he connected an external hard drive into the school network system. Ever since the live stream incident, guilt had been eating him alive. He kept replaying the look on Zariah's face inside the bus. The isolation, the exhaustion, the realization that nobody intended to help her, including him. At first, Noah only wanted proof that the cafeteria footage had been edited. But the deeper he searched into Crestfall's servers, the uglier things became. Deleted disciplinary records, missing suspension reports, security footage erased from multiple years, anonymous complaints labeled resolved without investigation. Noah's breathing slowed as file after file appeared across his screen. Crestfall wasn't covering up isolated bullying incidents. The school was systematically burying them. His fingers moved faster across the keyboard. Then one folder caught his attention immediately. Confidential Student Incident Archive. Password protected. Noah bypassed it after several attempts. The moment the folder opened, his stomach dropped. Dozens of student reports filled the screen. Physical assaults, harassment complaints, racial abuse, threats, most marked inactive, ignored, silenced. One file stood out from the rest. Julian Carter deceased. Noah clicked it open carefully. A school photo appeared on screen showing a skinny black student with nervous eyes and a forced smile. Underneath sat a long chain of incident reports dating back almost 2 years. Locker vandalism, physical intimidation, public humiliation videos, repeated mentions of Braden Collins, Tyler Reed, several unnamed football players. Noah kept scrolling. Teachers witnessed incidents but found insufficient evidence. Parents complained but were unable to verify claims. Counselors recommended emotional adjustment programs. Then the final report appeared. Student committed suicide off campus. Case closed. Noah leaned back slowly in horror. Braden had done this before, and Crestfall buried it. The realization hit him hard enough to make his chest tighten painfully. Zariah was never their first target. She was simply the first one dangerous enough to fight back. Meanwhile, across campus, Sierra Vale sat inside the girls' locker room staring at her phone, while anxiety slowly replaced arrogance for the first time in years. Anonymous accounts had started reposting old rumors about previous bullying victims connected to Braden's group. Students whispered more now. Some even questioned the official gym story publicly online. That wasn't supposed to happen. Sierra refreshed her feed again. Another post appeared. Funny how every security camera at Crestfall always malfunctions. Her stomach tightened. Then another. What happened to Julian Carter Sierra immediately stood up. Nobody talked about Julian anymore. Nobody. The entire school had silently agreed to erase him after his death because remembering him made everyone uncomfortable, especially the people responsible. Especially her. For the first time since Zariah arrived, Sierra felt genuine fear creeping beneath her skin. Not fear of Zariah herself. Fear that the truth might finally escape. Downstairs in the administrative wing, Principal Dean closed his office blinds carefully before opening a locked desk drawer hidden beneath several budget folders. Inside sat stacks of cash envelopes secured with rubber bands, beside unsigned legal documents and donor records connected to Crestfall's booster programs. His phone vibrated. Unknown caller. Dean answered immediately. "You told me this girl would be handled." The voice snapped angrily. Dean lowered his voice. "We're containing it." "No," the man replied coldly. "You're losing control." Dean's forehead glistened with nervous sweat. Ever since Naomi Hunter started digging into Crestfall years ago, things had become increasingly dangerous for everyone involved. The school's financial corruption stretched far beyond fake donor programs. Money moved through Crestfall from places nobody wanted investigated. And now Naomi's daughter had appeared out of nowhere. The timing terrified him. "What about the boy?" the caller asked. Dean froze. "What boy?" "The one accessing school records." Silence. Then the line disconnected. Principal Dean slowly looked toward the security monitor, displaying live footage from the computer lab hallway. Noah Bennett sat alone at his laptop, completely unaware someone was already watching him. Hours later, rain poured heavily outside as Noah copied hundreds of hidden files onto his external drive. His heartbeat pounded harder with every folder transferred. Evidence connected Braden to years of abuse. Connected administrators to cover-ups. Connected missing footage directly to school IT manipulation. Then Noah discovered something worse. Financial records. Encrypted payments routed through Crestfall accounts. Several names blacked out. One familiar name remaining visible. Daniel Collins. Braden's uncle. Police chief. Noah's hands started shaking violently now. This wasn't school corruption anymore. This was organized protection. Suddenly footsteps echoed somewhere outside the computer lab. Noah froze. The hallway lights flickered once. Then again. His laptop screen abruptly glitched. Remote access detected. A cold chill ran through his spine. Someone else had entered the system. Fast. Professional. Noah immediately unplugged the external drive and shoved it into his backpack, just as the computer lab door creaked open slowly. Nobody stood there. Only darkness. Noah. A voice echoed faintly from the hallway. Too calm. Too controlled. Noah recognized it instantly. Principal Dean. Panic surged through his chest. He shut the laptop quickly and slipped toward the rear exit instead of answering. Every instinct screamed at him to run now. The hallway outside looked empty. But the silence felt wrong, somehow heavy and waiting. His phone buzzed suddenly. Unknown number. One text message. "You should have minded your own business." Noah bolted. Footsteps thundered behind him immediately. He sprinted through the back stairwell, nearly slipping across wet concrete as voices echoed somewhere below. His breathing became ragged. Fear blurred his vision. He burst through the rear school exit into the storm and disappeared into the darkness beyond the parking lot. And then, nothing. The next morning, Noah Bennett never arrived at school. Calls went unanswered. His parents reported him missing by noon. By evening, students whispered through Crestfall's hallways while rumors spread faster than panic. Some claimed Noah ran away. Others said he hacked the wrong people. Sierra barely touched her phone anymore. Tyler looked visibly nervous. Even Braden stopped, pretending everything was under control. Because deep down, all of them understood something now. The situation had become far bigger than bullying. Far bigger than school drama. At sunset, Zariah sat alone inside her room, replaying the old Naomi Hunter video again when her phone suddenly vibrated. Incoming message. No sender. No text. Just a single GPS coordinate. Nothing else. Zariah stared at the screen while thunder rolled outside once more. Then her blood turned cold. Because the location pin rested far outside town, near an abandoned industrial area by the river, and somehow, she already knew exactly whose phone had sent it. The abandoned warehouse near the river looked dead long before Zariah and Elijah arrived. Broken windows stared into the storm like empty eye sockets, while rusted metal walls groaned beneath the freezing wind. Rain hammered the roof in violent bursts as Elijah parked his truck beside the loading dock and killed the engine. Neither of them spoke immediately. The GPS coordinates Noah sent still glowed faintly on Zariah's phone screen like a warning. "You sure this isn't a trap?" Elijah asked quietly. Zariah stepped out into the rain without answering, because deep down, both of them already knew it probably was. The warehouse doors hung partially open when they entered. Darkness swallowed almost everything beyond the first few feet inside, except weak flashes of lightning leaking through cracked windows overhead. Water dripped steadily from exposed ceiling pipes, while the smell of rust and mold filled the air. "Elijah," Zariah whispered suddenly. He froze. A faint sound echoed deeper inside the warehouse. Breathing, painful breathing. They moved quickly through rows of broken machinery until lightning illuminated a figure collapsed beside a support column near the back wall. Noah Bennett. Blood covered the side of his face. One eye swollen shut. His hoodie soaked dark with rainwater and dirt. "Oh my God," Zariah dropped beside him instantly, while Elijah scanned the building for movement. "Noah," she said sharply. "Look at me." Noah coughed violently before forcing his remaining eye open. Relief flickered across his bruised face. The second he recognized her. "You actually came. Who did this?" Noah tried sitting up and nearly collapsed again from pain. "There were two of them," he whispered weakly. "Maybe three." Elijah knelt beside him carefully. "Did you see faces?" Noah shook his head immediately. "They wore masks." His breathing became uneven again. "But they kept asking about you." Zariah's expression hardened instantly. "What about me?" Noah grabbed her sleeve suddenly with shaking fingers. "They don't want to scare you anymore," he whispered. "They want you gone." The warehouse seemed colder after those words. Elijah exchanged a grim look with Zariah. This had crossed another line now. Not bullying. Not intimidation. Hunting. Noah swallowed painfully before continuing. "I copied the files before they caught me," he muttered. "Everything from the school servers." "Where are they?" Noah slowly pointed toward the far end of the warehouse, near a stack of rusted shipping containers. "Hidden." Elijah helped him lean against the wall while Zariah moved cautiously through the darkness toward the containers. Her heartbeat pounded louder with every step. Something about the warehouse felt wrong beyond the obvious violence. Too organized. Too clean. As if somebody used this place regularly. She reached the final container and noticed fresh scratches near the lock mechanism. Someone had opened it recently. Carefully. She pulled the heavy door sideways. Metal screamed against concrete. Inside sat several waterproof storage boxes. Documents. Folders. Hard drives. And one military file stamped classified. Zariah's chest tightened instantly. Her hands shook slightly as she opened it. The first photograph nearly stopped her breathing. Naomi Hunter stood beside two federal agents outside Crestfall High nearly 15 years earlier. Another image showed stacks of financial ledgers being loaded into evidence vehicles. Several pages underneath referenced an active federal investigation tied to money laundering, political bribery, and missing government funds connected through Crestfall's donor network. Zariah flipped pages faster. Then she saw the final line. Lead witness Sergeant Naomi Hunter. The air left her lungs completely. Her mother hadn't just discovered corruption accidentally. She had been helping expose it. Elijah, Zariah whispered. He stepped beside her and went pale reading the documents. This is federal-level evidence. Another folder slipped partly open beneath the files. Inside sat old student reports. Victims. Photos. Medical records. Julian Carter's name appeared repeatedly. So did several others. Students hurt. Silenced. Erased. All connected somehow to families funding Crestfall High. This school's been dirty for years. Elijah muttered. No. Noah rasped weakly from across the warehouse. Longer than that? They turned toward him. Noah stared at the floor while speaking carefully through pain. The files mentioned Braden's father everywhere. Silence fell immediately. Not Braden. His father. Richard Collins. Local businessman. Major school donor. Political fundraiser. Untouchable. He controls the board. Noah continued weakly. The police. The school. Everything. Zariah slowly processed the realization spreading through her chest like ice. Braden was cruel. Dangerous. Entitled. But maybe he wasn't the architect behind this nightmare. Maybe he was simply raised inside it. Back across town. Braden Collins sat alone inside his dark bedroom, staring blankly at his reflection in the mirror. Bruises still covered his jaw from the gym fight. His knuckles trembled slightly from lack of sleep. Since the warehouse incident, something inside him had started unraveling. Tyler sat nervously on the edge of the couch nearby. We should stop. Tyler muttered quietly. Braden didn't answer. I'm serious. Still nothing. Tyler swallowed hard. This isn't funny anymore. That finally made Braden look up. What's that supposed to mean? Tyler hesitated. Then the truth slipped out. I think you scare me sometimes. The room went silent. Braden stared at him with an unreadable expression. Tyler laughed nervously afterward, like he wanted to take the words back immediately. But it was too late. Because deep down, Tyler knew something everyone else at Crestfall was slowly realizing too. Braden enjoyed hurting people. Not just bullying them, breaking them. And lately, even Braden himself looked frightened by whatever was happening around Zariah. Meanwhile, inside the warehouse, Elijah continued searching through Naomi's files while rain battered the walls outside harder than ever. Then he found another document hidden beneath the federal records. An internal report. Confidential witness termination possibility. Zariah read the line over Elijah's shoulder. Her blood ran cold. Termination. Not casualty. Not accident. Elijah slowly exhaled. Your mother wasn't killed in combat. Zariah couldn't speak. Years of grief suddenly twisted into something darker. Betrayal. The warehouse lights flickered once overhead, then died completely. Darkness swallowed the building instantly. Noah panicked. They found us. Footsteps echoed somewhere outside. Multiple people. Approaching slowly through the rain. Zariah grabbed the files immediately, while Elijah pulled Noah painfully to his feet. We move now. Lightning flashed through the broken windows. And for one terrifying second, several shadowed figures became visible outside the warehouse entrance. Watching them, Marcus Hunter had spent 15 years trying to bury the truth. Now it was finally digging its way back out of the grave. The storm outside the Hunter house raged violently, while stacks of stolen files covered the kitchen table beneath dim yellow lights. Noah slept unconscious on the living room couch after Elijah stitched the cut above his eye. Every window remained covered, every door locked. The atmosphere inside the house felt less like a home now and more like a bunker waiting for war. Zariah stood silently at the table, flipping through Naomi Hunter's federal investigation files, while Marcus sat across from her with both hands clasped tightly enough to shake. He looked exhausted, old, defeated. For the first time in her life, Zariah realized her grandfather wasn't just hiding painful memories. He was hiding fear. Real fear. These records connect Crestfall to offshore accounts, Elijah said quietly while scanning another folder. Millions of dollars moved through fake scholarship foundations. Marcus nodded once without lifting his eyes. Because the school was laundering money. Silence fell instantly. Zariah slowly looked toward him. You knew. Marcus finally met her gaze. Yes. The single word hit harder than shouting ever could. Years of lies suddenly collapsed all at once. My mother knew too. Zariah whispered. Marcus exhaled shakily. Naomi was part of a Marine intelligence support operation overseas when she uncovered financial transfers connected to local political groups back here in Crestfall. He pushed one photograph across the table. Richard Collins stood beside multiple city officials during a fundraiser gala years earlier. Smiling beside military donors and school board executives, Braden's father, the man who owned half the town, the school foundation moved illegal money through fake construction contracts and scholarship programs. Marcus continued bitterly. Politicians got paid. Police departments got paid. Anybody asking questions disappeared quietly. Zariah's chest tightened painfully. And Mom investigated them. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. She wouldn't let it go. Rain hammered harder against the windows as Elijah remained completely silent near the doorway, his expression unreadable beneath the shadows. Marcus rubbed both hands over his face slowly before continuing. Naomi gathered enough evidence to bring federal charges against several people connected to Crestfall. Richard Collins was one of them. Zariah's heartbeat pounded violently now. So they killed her. Marcus didn't answer immediately. That hesitation was enough. They told the public it happened during overseas combat. He whispered. Official military casualty, but that wasn't true. Zariah said coldly. No. The room felt suffocating suddenly. Years of grief twisted into rage so sharp Zariah almost couldn't breathe through it. Every memory of her mother being called a hero now felt poisoned by lies. She died 2 miles from Crestfall. Marcus finally admitted quietly. Zariah froze. What Marcus looked shattered, saying it aloud. They intercepted her before she could deliver the evidence. The silence afterward became unbearable. Noah stirred weakly on the couch nearby, while lightning flashed across the room. Nobody spoke for several seconds because nobody could undo the weight of what had just been revealed. Naomi Hunter never died in war. She was murdered at home, and the people responsible still controlled the town. Suddenly headlights swept across the front windows outside. Everyone stiffened instantly. Marcus grabbed the pistol from beneath the table automatically. Another vehicle passed slowly beyond the house, watching, then continued down the road. Zariah noticed Marcus's hands trembling now. They're monitoring us already. Aren't they? Marcus answered honestly this time. Yes. The words settled, like a death sentence. Hours later, Elijah drove through the rain toward a secure FBI contact point outside the county, while Zariah sat beside him, clutching the evidence files tightly against her chest. Noah remained hidden with Marcus for safety. The roads looked nearly empty at midnight except for occasional headlights reflecting through the storm. You trust the FBI? Zariah asked quietly. Elijah kept his eyes on the road. Some of them. That's not an answer. No. He admitted. It's not. Zariah stared out the passenger window silently. Ever since learning the truth about Naomi, something inside her had shifted permanently. The fear was still there, but beneath it now lived something colder. Purpose. If her mother died trying to expose Crestfall, then Zariah suddenly understood why everyone wanted her destroyed before she learned too much. Elijah's phone buzzed sharply against the dashboard. Unknown number. He ignored it. Seconds later, another call came, then another. His jaw tightened. We're being tracked, he muttered. At that exact moment, headlights exploded behind them. Fast. Too fast. A black SUV surged through the rain directly onto their bumper. Zariah twisted around instantly. Elijah. The SUV slammed into the rear of the truck, violently. Metal screamed across wet pavement. Elijah fought the steering wheel hard as the vehicle fishtailed dangerously near the roadside barrier. Another black SUV appeared ahead, blocking the highway. This isn't police. Elijah snapped. The realization hit immediately. Assassin's. Not intimidation anymore. Elimination. The second SUV doors opened, and masked men stepped out carrying rifles. Move, Elijah shouted. He jerked the truck sideways across the opposite lane, just as gunfire erupted through the storm. Glass shattered beside Zariah's head. Bullets ripped across the doors while Elijah accelerated off the highway toward an abandoned service road disappearing into the woods. The attackers followed instantly. Mud sprayed violently beneath the tires as the truck bounced across uneven ground. Zariah gripped the evidence files tighter while adrenaline burned through her veins. They're trying to kill us. She breathed. Yes. No hesitation now. No pretending. Elijah slammed the brakes suddenly behind an abandoned factory structure hidden deep in the trees. Out. They jumped into the rain moments before another burst of gunfire tore through the truck windshield. The attackers spread through the darkness professionally. Military movement. Zariah noticed immediately. Elijah grabbed her arm and pulled her behind concrete barriers, while bullets sparked against rusted metal around them. How do they know where we are? She shouted over the storm. Elijah hesitated. Too long. Then one masked gunman rushed their position. Zariah reacted instantly, disarming him with brutal speed, before slamming him unconscious into the concrete wall. The second attacker raised his weapon toward her. Elijah shot him first. The sound thundered across the forest. Zariah froze. Not because Elijah fired. Because of how naturally he did it. Professional. Trained. Military. The surviving attackers retreated suddenly back toward the SUVs after realizing the ambush failed. Engines roared through the storm before disappearing into the darkness completely. Silence returned slowly except for rain and heavy breathing. Zariah stared at Elijah now differently. Not teacher to student. Not ally to ally. Something else. You knew how they operate, she said quietly. Elijah looked away. You moved like them. Still silence. Then Zariah saw it. The guilt. Years of it buried inside his face. What aren't you telling me? Elijah's expression darkened painfully. For several seconds, he couldn't answer. Finally, he lowered the pistol slowly. When your mother died, he whispered. Voice barely audible beneath the rain. I was there. Everything inside Zariah stopped. The storm, the fear, her breathing, all gone. Only those words remained. Elijah looked completely broken now. I was here, partner. Zariah stared at him in disbelief, while blood and rain mixed across the concrete around them. Every memory suddenly rearranged itself again. The military recognition, the hesitation, the hidden knowledge. He hadn't just known Naomi Hunter. He had survived the night she died. And judging by the look in his eyes, He had been hiding something terrible ever since. Crestfall exploded before sunrise. Besześć 12 am. Every hidden file Noah Bennett stole from the school servers had been uploaded anonymously across multiple social platforms, encrypted forums, and national news inboxes simultaneously. The evidence spread too fast to contain. Deleted bullying reports, financial transfers, security footage manipulation, bribery records tied to Crestfall High officials, medical reports connected to abused students, confidential emails proving years of systematic cover-ups, and buried inside the files sat the most devastating revelation of all. Naomi Hunter had been murdered. Not overseas. Not in combat. At home, because she investigated corruption tied directly to Crestfall High. Students arrived on campus to chaos, unlike anything the town had ever seen. Police barricades surrounded the school entrance, while reporters crowded the sidewalks holding microphones beneath flashing cameras. Protest signs appeared almost immediately. Justice for Julian. Arrest the Collins family. Crestfall protected abusers. Hundreds of students gathered outside the main building, chanting angrily while helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting live footage nationwide. Parents screamed at school officials. Teachers locked classroom doors. Some students cried openly after discovering the truth about classmates who suffered for years in silence. The illusion holding Crestfall together had finally shattered, and everyone was watching it burn in real time. Inside the administrative wing, Principal Dean looked like a dead man walking. Sweat soaked through his collar, while federal investigators pushed past terrified staff members carrying evidence boxes out of the building. School computers were seized. Hard drives confiscated. Teachers whispered frantically through the hallways. Dean tried calling Richard Collins 6 times. No answer, because Richard Collins was already dealing with a much bigger disaster. Television screens across the country now displayed his face beside headlines, connecting him to money laundering, political bribery, witness intimidation, and possible murder conspiracy tied to Naomi Hunter's death. The empire he built through fear was collapsing publicly, and he intended to destroy everything before losing control. Meanwhile, inside an abandoned motel, several miles outside town, Zariah watched the news coverage silently beside Elijah, while Noah rested nearby with fresh bandages covering his injuries. Marcus cleaned blood from an old rifle near the window while keeping watch outside. None of them had slept. Every channel replayed the same footage, now students protesting. Federal agents raiding school offices. Parents demanding arrests. Crestfall was finally being exposed. But instead of relief, Zariah felt something colder settling inside her chest. Danger. Because powerful people became most violent when cornered. Marcus's phone suddenly rang. He answered immediately, listening without speaking while his expression darkened. Then he hung up. They issued warrants, he said quietly. Zariah looked up instantly. For who? Marcus hesitated. For Elijah. The room froze. Elijah closed his eyes briefly, like he expected it already. Murder conspiracy. Marcus continued bitterly. Obstruction. Treason. Zariah stared at Elijah in disbelief. They're blaming you. They need a scapegoat. Elijah replied quietly, but his voice carried something deeper beneath it. Guilt. Still guilt. Zariah stepped toward him slowly. Tell me the rest. Elijah looked away toward the television, where Naomi Hunter's military photograph filled the screen again beneath breaking news banners. I tried to save her. He whispered. Silence. We were supposed to meet federal agents that night. Naomi already knew Richard Collins had people inside local law enforcement. She knew the evidence wasn't safe anymore. His jaw tightened painfully. But somebody betrayed our location. Zariah's heartbeat slowed. What happened? Elijah finally forced himself to meet her eyes. They ambushed us before we reached the meeting point. Rain tapped softly against the motel windows, while every word dragged years of buried trauma back into the room. There were gunshots everywhere. Elijah continued. Naomi got you out first. Zariah froze completely. Me, you were there. The world tilted suddenly. What are you talking about? Elijah looked shattered now. You were 5 years old. She hid you inside the back of the vehicle before the shooting started. Fragments exploded across Zariah's mind instantly. Flashes she never fully understood. Rain. Red lights. Her mother screaming. Blood across broken glass. Marcus slowly lowered his eyes. He knew. He had always known. You told me she died overseas. Zariah whispered weakly. Marcus's voice broke slightly. Because you were there when it happened. The truth hit harder than anything before it. Her memories weren't nightmares. They were real. Before anyone could speak again, the motel television abruptly switched to live breaking coverage outside Crestfall High. And suddenly Braden Collins appeared on screen. Drunk, bleeding from a cut above his eyebrow, shoving reporters away violently while police tried controlling the crowd. You think this is all my fault? He screamed at cameras. You don't know anything, students shouted back angrily from behind barricades. Murderer Julian died because of you, Braden, snapped completely. I didn't kill him. The entire crowd went silent. Too late. He realized immediately what he had just implied. Police surged toward him as cameras captured everything live nationwide. Back at Crestfall, Sierra Vale watched the chaos unfold from inside an interrogation room, while federal investigators questioned her for the third straight hour. Mascara streaked beneath her eyes from crying. She finally broke. I'll testify. She whispered shakily. I'll tell you everything. The investigators exchanged glances. Sierra wiped tears from her face violently. Richard Collins paid the school board for years. Dean erased complaints. Daniel Collins destroyed evidence from the cameras. Her voice trembled harder now. Braden wasn't supposed to go that far. None of this was supposed to happen. But it already had. Outside town, Richard Collins sat inside a black SUV, watching national news coverage with pure hatred burning across his face. Every channel destroyed him. Every reporter spoke Naomi Hunter's name again. Protesters filled the streets. Federal agencies moved closer by the hour. He turned toward the armed man beside him calmly. Burn everything. The man nodded once. No witnesses. No files. No survivors. Back at the motel, Marcus suddenly noticed headlights approaching fast through the rain outside. Too many. His expression changed instantly. They found us. Everyone moved at once. Elijah grabbed the evidence drives. Noah struggled to stand. Zariah reached for her jacket just as bullets exploded through the motel windows. Glass shattered everywhere. Marcus fired back immediately, while shoving Zariah toward the rear exit. Move gunfire thundered through the night as masked men stormed the parking lot. Professional. Coordinated. The same type from the highway ambush. Richard Collins had sent killers again. Zariah and Elijah escaped through the back hallway while Marcus covered them with rifle fire from the doorway. Bullets tore through motel walls. Noah collapsed beside the rear stairs, barely conscious. Zariah screamed. Then it happened. One shot. Sharp. Clean. Marcus staggered backward violently. Blood spread across his chest instantly. Zariah rushed toward him as Elijah dragged Noah outside into the storm. Marcus fell against the motel railing, breathing hard, while gunfire continued erupting around them. Listen to me. He coughed painfully. You keep going. Tears mixed with rain across Zariah's face for the first time in years. I'm not leaving you. Marcus grabbed her jacket weakly. Yes, you are. Another explosion rocked the motel behind them. Flames spread rapidly now. Evidence destruction. Cleanup. Marcus shoved a blood-covered flash drive into her hand. Your mother died protecting this, he whispered. Don't waste it. Then more headlights appeared beyond the trees. Police. Federal agents. Too many sirens at once. The attackers retreated immediately into the darkness before authorities reached the motel, but Richard Collins had already vanished. Hours later, dawn rose over a country now obsessed with Crestfall High. National reporters camped outside government buildings. Arrest warrants spread across news channels. Protesters demanded federal investigations nationwide into school corruption and abuse cover-ups. Inside a quiet hospital waiting room, Zariah sat alone staring at Marcus through intensive care glass while machines beeped softly around him. Alive. Barely. Elijah approached slowly, holding a phone in his hand. His face looked pale. What is it? Zariah asked quietly. Elijah hesitated, then handed her the phone. Unknown number. Active call. Zariah answered cautiously. Silence filled the line for several seconds. Then a woman's voice spoke softly. If you want to see your mother again, Zariah stopped breathing. Come to Washington. The call disconnected instantly. Her hands trembled violently now. Elijah stared at her in shock. What did they say? But Zariah couldn't answer yet. Because across the waiting room television, national news anchors now replayed Naomi Hunter's photograph beside new federal headlines, while Crestfall High burned metaphorically in front of the entire country. And for the first time since arriving in town, Zariah Hunter stopped thinking about survival. Now she was thinking about war. Crestfall High thought they could bury the truth forever. They thought racism, money, power, and fear would keep everyone silent, until Zariah Hunter walked into that hallway and refused to break. But after everything that happened, the violence, the betrayal, the cover-ups, and the shocking final phone call, one question still remains: if Naomi Hunter is really alive, then who has been protecting her all these years? And what kind of war is Zariah about to walk into next? Tell me in the comments what you think will happen in Season 2. And if this story kept you hooked until the end, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intense stories about revenge, corruption, and survival that Hollywood would never dare to tell this brutally.